What's up, MMA fans? This is Sophisticated MMA. I'm Kate, and we're back in my kitchen, and we've got Gerald Meerschaert with us today. I'm super excited to talk to you. But first things first, I feel like I mispronounce your name constantly. I hear a lot of people mispronounce your name. I want it on record. How do you pronounce your last name?
No, you got it the first time. That was pretty
I
good.
did? Oh,
Yeah.
good. Because I have a wicked last name that nobody pronounces that I will not be saying on camera. So I understand. No, I have to stay secret. So I understand having a difficult last name, and I feel like I hear people pronounce your name different all the time. So I wanted to make sure I got it right.
Yeah, I get some pretty interesting iterations of it, but for the most part lately, it's been pretty consistent.
Well, it's because you've been winning.
Yeah,
They got to get your
exactly.
name right, right? So I love talking to Wisconsin natives. You grew up here, you train here. What is it that you love about Wisconsin that made you not leave? Because a lot of people get up and get out of here as soon as they get the chance.
Yeah. Well, honestly, it doesn't really have anything to do with the state itself. Like, obviously, it's a good place to live, right? My family's here. Those are all very important things. But when I first started, I found a gym that had, really good professionals in it that I felt I could learn a lot from. And then even when I um, moved on from there and started training with Duke Rufus, I was like, okay, there's clearly a group of world class fighters, right in southeastern Wisconsin, which I just happened to be from. And I was like, the way they teach striking, especially, and everything else combined, I felt like I could still learn a lot. And I was like, all right, if they can take a guy from, the root to the fruit, so to speak, and, turn people into champions, why wouldn't I stay?
So you found your MMA family, is what you're saying. Is like that
Definitely.
was there was no reason to go explore other gyms because I know a lot of guys kind of jump around sometimes looking for the right fit. You found your fit.
Yeah. Well, and I've trained at some other gyms before, and I've trained with guys that have trained at, they tell me about like Jackson Wink or American Top Team and stuff like that. And,
Mhm.
I just like Rufus Sport a lot, especially because we got a lot of big names, but it's still a small gym feel. So, like, all the guys on the pro team, we all still train together. We all still know each other really well. There's not like different separate groups because we don't have, overflow of too many top tier guys. So there's not that I'm going to say there's division because obviously I'm not at those other gyms, but it's just a little smaller, more homey feel, which I like.
Well, good. I'm glad you found a good place for you. I wanted to know how you got into MMA because I like looking into people's backgrounds a little bit, but I didn't find too much of a history on yours. So why don't you tell us what your journey to the sport was?
It wasn't like a whole long drawn out thing. It was pretty much I was in, I always liked, I'd watched it before, obviously, and I'd seen a lot of Pride videos and I was really into it. And then as soon as I had the ability when I started college, then I could, go off on my own and do whatever I wanted. I found a small gym and I thought I was tough. And then I found out very quickly I was not. And so I wanted to fix that. And then I had my first fight after like a month of training, which I do not recommend to anyone. This is a terrible idea. But
Yeah.
yeah, but I loved it. I stuck with it. And yeah, here we are.
What prompted you to take a fight so soon after? Like what happened there? Did somebody just say, "Hey, you've got an opportunity," and you were like, "Yeah, I think I'm ready."
I was a 19-year-old male. That's all the reason that I needed. I wanted to get in there and fight somebody. And well, it wasn't a cage then; it was a ring. But I thought I could take over the world or take on the world, so to speak. And yeah, found out really quick that was not the case.
Got that humbling experience is good for some people. I think it's been good for you. Your nickname now, was that just your, because you're, when I looked you up on Skype, it came up as the third. So is this an homage to your lineage?
That's just my name. that's
Just your
my
name? You didn't
my
want to pick
legal
anything
name.
fun?
No, I like it. It kind of it works. I wouldn't say it rhymes, but it sounds good enough, and it's not like anybody else has that nickname, so I'm gonna stick with that one. And then a lot of guys there used to be locally Wisconsin Combat Sports is like a little web, like a share dog, but just for Wisconsin. And they originally started going with that around like 2009 or 10. So I just kind of stuck with that one.
All right. I like to ask people about their nicknames because sometimes they have, an interesting thing that they came up with. And some of them are just some people who with no nickname. I don't even know that it's necessarily that big of a thing anymore. Like it used to be a huge deal where people needed to have, some big star name. And I'm liking that a lot of guys are getting to just kind of come up as who they are. So
Themselves.
you're one of those people. Yeah, you just get to be yourself. You don't have a thing that you're going with. So it did look like your career professionally was going in a different direction at one point. You were going to be a music teacher?
Yeah. So
did I right?
I don't know about like professionally, but I went to college for 1 year. I was in a program for music education. So that was going to be my lot in life. But at the same time, I started training at the gym, and I very quickly decided that that was the route I wanted to go. So I wasn't a very good student. I wasn't at, a ton of classes. So that didn't last very long. But at one point in time, I was going to be a music teacher.
I think is that something that you'd ever like to go back to, like maybe when fighting's done?
I don't know, just because the teachers, especially in Wisconsin, do not get paid well at all. And I don't know, especially right now, I'm not sure that stuff is going to be like kept around that much because, most instruments, except for like string instruments, like I play a saxophone, it requires you like, forcing air through a brass instrument. And with the whole like wearing a mask and, being airborne and water droplets and stuff like that, probably not the best idea with everything going on. So I don't think that that's going to be part of mandatory curriculum for a while.
Yeah, I think you may have a point there, which is kind of sad. But it's the world that we're living in. Well, you mentioned that your first MMA, your first fight out there a month after training, and you didn't win. What kind of propelled you to keep going? Like, was it just you were already super in love with it, or was it I can't quit now, I can't quit on a loss? What was the thing that kind of made you keep going?
Yeah, probably a little bit of both. And I knew I wasn't the guy I thought I was, and I was like, okay, I know for sure I'm not what I would like to think I am. So I want to become that, and I'm going to do everything in my power to get there. And it's kind of what the basis of most stories are, right? A young person has like an objective that maybe they're not even aware of, and they start their journey off. And once you recognize it's going to be a hard, long journey, those are generally the most worth it, right? So I had an end goal in mind, and I kept pursuing it. I'm still pursuing it to this day, but that's the reason it's so compelling and it's so exciting. It gets me out of bed every day because there's always more to accomplish.
Sure. So would you say that the why you fight is the love of the sport, or is there some deep down reason that something that, like you said, gets you out of bed in the morning? Is it your goals, or is it you just can't stand being outside of that cage? Because you've been pretty active, like really active.
Yeah, well, it's probably a couple things. I do love fighting. Obviously, I wouldn't fight this much if I didn't. It'd be kind of a dumb thing to do if some people get stuck in a job that they don't like, but generally that job doesn't, involve getting bombarded with physical pain at this kind of level. You know what I mean?
Generally.
So, yeah. And, there's still stuff I want to accomplish. Obviously, it's given me a way to provide for my family very well. And, not that I don't think fighters shouldn't be paid more, but at the very least right now I'm doing okay. I can't really complain about that personally for where I'm at and my record and everything. And, I want to be a champion. I've won an RFA belt, which, I think that counts as like a regional champion, but I want to be a world champion. And until I can achieve that goal or go the furthest I possibly can, and, to obtaining that, and I know I haven't left anything in the tank, then I'm going to keep fighting.
outside of being a world champion, is there anything else that you'd like to accomplish through MMA? Would you like to coach someday? Would you like to, be able to have a platform to send a message? Is there anything else outside of that big gold belt?
I'll probably end up coaching. I'd like to have at least a grappling gym. I don't know. It depends if there was a demand for kickboxing stuff. I'd probably do that too. I'm not like set on training fighters. Like if it happens, it happens, but it's not something that I am gonna set out to do just because, that comes with a lot of stuff, especially once you're done fighting. Because if you don't have a system already set in place, these guys, you're going to build them from the bottom up, right? So you're going to have to go to little amateur local shows, and some of your weekends are going to be ate up by that. And then you got to go to travel to regional fights and then work your way up. And then once you get to the UFC, you're gone for a week and all this kind of stuff. And it's not that you can't make a living doing it, or not that I wouldn't enjoy it, but I'm not sure that after I'm done fighting, I think I'll have had my fill of that part of it. But I definitely want to keep teaching when I'm done.
So you'd look to be more of an instructor, not necessarily somebody who's cornering fighters.
Right. I mean, if I had like a good bond with, a group of guys or something, or an individual, and they really, really wanted to learn from me for whatever reason, I'm not completely opposed to it, but it's not something I'm going to search out.
All right. I like it. So I'm going to get a little more personal here. Feel free to stop me. I've seen that a lot of, probably more in the MMA world than any other professional athlete. These guys have like their wife, their girlfriend, that is like their rock. It seems to be far more prevalent in MMA that they need like their woman or their partner standing beside them. But I've looked through your Instagram. I don't see anybody. So is there a special lady in your life that's sitting in your corner and you're just kind of keeping her a little bit quiet?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I'm married, but that's for me. My social media, my social media is strictly for fighting, and honestly, even if I try to show or post anything that doesn't have anything to do with fighting, no one really cares, for one. And two, I'm just more of a person where I don't have a choice as far as that goes. Like that, the fighting and all that stuff, that's out there. Like that, that was out of my reach a long time ago. But everything else, that's my personal life. So I just kind of, it's not that I'm ashamed of it or trying to hide anything. I just,
Sure.
No one really wants to hear about it, and I don't care to talk about it too much because that's, my own special thing. And I feel it's more special to me because, it's just for me. It's not for everybody else. And that, nothing against guys that want to put their wife or girlfriend out there and do all this other stuff. If you like doing that, then more power to you. I got nothing against that, but it's just not for me.
Oh no, to each their own. I love hearing those stories. And I think maybe part of the reason that, as you said, people don't care about that side of it is that this is a more male dominated fan base.
Yeah, probably.
I would say that the females out there, we like hearing that story. We like knowing that because it's just, I don't know, it's kind of nice. It has a very chivalrous ring to it, I think.
Yeah, even my wife, she's like, oh yeah, I follow this guy's wife and I follow that guy's wife. And I'm like, why? Why are you following their wives? That has nothing to do with anything. But then it's like, okay, you probably feel you have some common ground because you also are married to a fighter. So I get it in that sense. But for me, if I was watching someone, I wouldn't, again, different because I'm a guy, or to a better point, I think, not that I watch a ton of women's sports, but Serena Williams, amazing athlete. Mm-hmm. There'd be no reason that I would follow her boyfriend or husband or whatever, because what is that guy going to contribute to my thought process? Man, really cool watching her play tennis. Can't tell you how awesome it is.
I think it may be more of a female thing. We like to know we like to know the story. And I guess there's something to be said for building up a fighter's story. That's often what happens before a fight, if there's drama or
Right.
beef between another guy. So maybe it's just that other dimension. And it certainly has been part of the story for certain fighters. I mean, Mike Perry had his one girlfriend in his corner.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing he's got going on. And now again, maybe when I get to the point where I'm getting closer to a title shot or something, they do like the 24/7 or whatever it is for the UFC Unfiltered or the background story, and they come to my house, then that's kind of different, right? Because now that's the whole point of it. But it's
Mhm.
not something that I'm going to voluntarily put out there until people start asking and be like, you can see a little bit, and then you got to leave.
Well, that's fair. Again, this is your story. You get to tell it how you want to tell it. So you told me you didn't bring your saxophone. I'm very disappointed.
Yeah,
You,
not today. I got to save my
you
lungs for Saturday
promise?
night.
Okay, that's fair. I will give you that. But you promise you're gonna play. I'm gonna get you on Instagram Live, and you're gonna
We can
play for
definitely do
everybody.
that. We can
Okay,
definitely do that.
awesome, love it. Okay, so switching gears a little bit more into the fight conversation, you bumped up to light heavyweight for this fight. To fight Ed Herman. I don't know too much about him. I think I watched his last two fights because I was very interested in the card. But was this move just the opportunity, or is this something that you think that you might make permanent?
It was opportunity. So Ed Herman, like usually I'm the vet when I go into fights. Ed
Uh-huh.
Herman is like the super vet of vets. He's been in the UFC since 2006. I haven't even been fighting since 2007, so that's nuts. And like I've seen him fight a bunch of times. He fought one of my, I guess he'd be like a former teammate, affiliate teammate, Alan Belcher, way back in the day.
Mhm.
So like this guy's been around, very tough. He doesn't do anything crazy flashy, but he's still like very technically sound and very tactically well minded. And most of his career, he was at 85. Like he did a little bit of 205 because he was on the Ultimate Fighter at 205 because again, you got to make weight, every other week.
Mhm.
But he's really at 85 or fighting at 205. I would, venture to guess because he doesn't feel like cutting weight anymore, which I get it. He's nearing the end of his career. He's getting older. That's a lot to put your body through and still get up to go fight somebody. And when you already got, all these skills built up from, decades of fighting, why tax your body anymore? You know what I mean? So really, I think we're going to be pretty close to the same size. Um, and again, he had a guy drop out. He's been fighting at 205. And it's not that I wouldn't have done it before or anything like this, but generally I feel like the UFC, they kind of want to keep you in your weight class. So I know I've heard Dana and like people talk about before fighting between weight classes. Like they say it doesn't make sense, especially if you're like trying to get in rankings or whatever, which I
Uh-huh.
understand the point they're making. But in this instance, they got to rattle off fights. They're trying to get guys through contracts. They're trying to put cars on ESPN, to
Yeah.
keep that deal going. So if they're going to give me the opportunity to take a short notice 205 fight, I'm all about it.
What do you typically walk around at?
Well, it depends on how good I'm eating, but I won't get much heavier than 215, but I'll still, I'll be like walking around at 210, maybe a little bit more, and I'll be ending practice at like between 205 and 207 if I'm like, eating clean.
Oh, wow. Okay, so this isn't going to be a weight cut at all, really, for
No,
you.
no.
Okay, so then how do you prepare different? Like, how do you treat your camp differently if you don't have that, 15, 20 pounds of weight to cut in that last week?
Not too much different. I won't have to do my water load. Like I'm still gonna drink plenty of water, but I'm not gonna
Sure.
force myself to down 2 gallons, every day leading up to weigh-ins. And then
Sure.
I won't have to cut out salt or carbs really, which will be nice. I'll have all, my muscles, my glycogen stores will be, completely full the entire time leading up to the fight, which is awesome. The rehydration process and like getting everything back in is, not gonna really be anything. It's really more just eating clean, I might train a little bit harder just because I'll be able to, and I probably won't be able to help myself. But other than that, it's not going to be too much different other than I'll feel a lot better physically.
Do you like training really hard right up to a fight? Because I know a lot of fighters, they kind of take that last 2 weeks a little bit easier just to avoid any damage or injury. Are you a fan of just like, nope, I'm going to keep my foot on the gas pedal until I'm in that cage?
I don't go crazy, but certain things I'll do. Like I think I drill a lot more than certain guys. Yeah,
Okay.
because obviously I'm in the PI. I'm watching guys. Like a lot of guys will just kind of like maybe they run on the treadmill or they hit pads a little bit and just do real tactical stuff and kind of mess around. And I'll actually like not spar, but like do set drills and kind of move around with somebody, and then we'll roll a little bit. And it's if you have a good partner and you know what you're doing, you shouldn't really be getting hurt, and you should be so on at that point. Like obviously accidents can happen, but accidents can happen when you're doing anything. You could roll your ankle when someone's holding pads for you. So
True.
if the guy you got with you knows what he's doing and knows why he's there, and that's one thing that our team does very well is like I'll have Brendan Allen with me again as like my partner to train with me. So like if he's got a fight, the focus is on him. I'm gonna give him looks, but he's gonna more or less win every exchange. And I might make him fight to win some more than others just to like keep the movements fresh in his head. But I'm not gonna do anything and spaz out to hurt him. And he does the same thing for me. So if you got that rapport and you understand why, what the goal is, then you should be okay.
Yeah, having that good partner, I think, makes a huge difference for people, having the right team behind you. And as you've said, you found a pretty solid team. I did want to ask you about, okay, so one of my favorite fights of yours was against Trevin Giles. That submission at the end was pretty sick. Actually, the attempt before the ending submission was also pretty awesome. But right at the very end, like you had the submission, and I think he tapped.
He
And
did with both hands.
right. And Herb Dean didn't quite catch it, and the poor guy went out. I,
So
I, I wanted to ask your opinion because there have been a few in the last few weeks, pretty controversial stops. And some of the reffing situations have been brought into question. Just because you've been in that moment, you've been right there. What are your thoughts on everything that's going on?
So outside of Herb Dean reffing my fights, him specifically, like I don't know him too well or anything.
Sure.
If I had to guess, I'd say like anytime he gets accused of stopping a fight too early, and I don't know if it's just the general populace or if there's a couple key people that he really listens to, then he seems to go and let them go a little bit more, which, I think for title fights or like main event contender fights, then maybe you give him a little more leeway. But, the ref is there really to protect the fighter. Right. And as much as it would suck for me, like I'd be really upset too if maybe I got clipped and they stopped the fight too early and I'm like, I was fine. Well, the rule isn't you keep fighting or the ref doesn't stop it until you're, completely unconscious and halfway buried. The rule is intelligent defense. So if you're getting punched in the face and, I was moving. Well, if you're getting punched in the face and you're trying to move, but you're still getting punched, it's not really intelligent defense. So like by the rule itself, depending on how liberal you want to be with that, they're not outside their realm to do it. And then now you get them going the other way, like, all right, you guys want to fight, I'm going to let you fight. And, I think it's very easy when you're reffing so many fights so often to like have bad calls and it's going to happen. I did see the one where the guy got TKO'd and it looked to me like he was clearly out. Maybe they had a conversation in the back where the guy said, hey, sometimes I get rocked, but then I come back real quick. And if I'm on the ground, I'll be okay. That could have happened too, but it looked pretty obvious to everybody else. I will say from my experience, it was kind of, luckily Trevin's okay. So now in retrospect, it's funny. At the time, not so much. So I wrap up that guillotine and I say he's tapping. Herb's he's at a bad angle, so he can't see it. And Trevin's arms are like kind of still around my leg, like he's trying to take down. So he's tapping with both hands, and then he goes limp. And I say he's out. And Herb looks at me and he goes, "No, he's not." And I was like, "All right, man." Like,
Oh,
sure. Yeah, which to his credit, I'm sure some guys are gonna say that and try and like pull a fast one, but like I feel him tapping and then he stops tapping, and you can feel a person's body just kind of give, and I'm like, he's out, he's out.
yeah.
And Herb goes, "No, he isn't," and I was like, rolled my eyes. I was like, okay, like hold it for 2 more seconds, and then I let him go. Herb never stopped it. I just let him go. He flops down. I turn him over and pick his legs up, and then as soon as I pick his legs up, people start running over, and then Herb goes, "Get away, get away." And I'm like, I'm the only one helping in this situation. Why are you telling me to get away? I'm trying to get blood back to his brain, man. Like I told you he was
Yeah.
unconscious. So in that case, I get it. He had a bad angle. This wasn't too far removed from the Lawler Askren fight, which I was coincidentally at that one also in the corner.
Yeah.
So he's going to err on the side of caution in that sense. But it's luckily me and Trevin are both good guys. I got nothing against them. Once I felt him go out, I was like, "There's no reason to hold this anymore," and the ref clearly doesn't recognize that he's unconscious. So let me help him out real quick.
How important do you feel it is for the fighters to kind of interject themselves in those situations? Because that happened, I mean, in that TKO, that kind of happened where he's looking at her, Dean, going,
Yeah.
do I have to?
Yeah.
Do I
In that
have to
case, I
keep
definitely
going?
think it helps. With the punches and stuff or TKOs, it's actually doesn't seem like it would be, but it's safer in that instance because, like the choke I had Trevin in, his face is pointed to the floor and his body's facing downward. So it's kind of hard to tell if you're just reffing if they're out. You've got a rear naked choke on someone, you can tell pretty easily because their body's usually facing up or something unless they're face planted to the floor. But that's the scary part. If a guy's got a choke and they don't want to let go, it's hard to pry someone off somebody. So like there's got to be a little bit of, sportsmanship there. With the punches and stuff, it sucks getting hit after you're out, but sometimes it happens. But even in that instance, Herb, like after the guy complained and hit him again, it only took one or two, and then Herb was like, "All right, you're done."
Yeah. And thankfully so, because
Yeah.
poor Peter Yan was treating Jose Aldo's head like a bongo. And I think everybody agreed that one was too much.
There again, intelligent defense. No, he wasn't unconscious, but clearly after 2 straight minutes of getting the tar kicked out of you, you're probably not going to do anything.
Do you think that needs to be a little bit more clear? Do you think that maybe intelligent defense is too subjective in some cases?
I don't really think the wording is bad. Maybe because it's going to be different ref to ref, but if they at least make that clear in the locker room, which is, most guys do a pretty good job of, hey, if I ask you to fight back, I need to see something, and then if I say fight back or show me you're in there, whatever their thing is that they say, and they tell you that if I don't see you move or I don't see you improve position, not just move, but I don't see you improve your position or defend yourself, I'm going to stop the fight. So you got to give me a reason to let you keep fighting if I think it's that bad. Okay. Now the threshold for when it starts to get bad is different, because this is the other part is every fighter is going to say that, let me go out on my shield. So in that sense, I don't think any of those guys are going to complain about what Herb did as far as the guys that are on the losing side. Yeah. So it's, kind of, if you ask them, they're going to be like, I'd rather have that happen than an early stoppage. But, the ref's not really there to please the fighter. So for better or worse.
I couldn't have said it better. They're certainly not there to please the fighter because somebody's always going to be upset, whether it's early or it's late. It's always going to be somebody. And on that note, I guess, as far as somebody always being upset, you've had a couple decisions not go your way that I personally, in watching, am sitting there confused as all heck as to how judging works. I think I even messaged you once going, I don't understand what I'm even looking at anymore sometimes.
Yeah.
I know we've had a conversation or two about what you think could change as far as the judging. Do you think it needs to be fighters in those corners? Do you think it needs to be maybe a different scoring system? Is everything wrong and we just got to scrap it and start over?
Yeah, I don't know. It's really hard to tell because we're using a scoring system based on boxing.
Mm-hmm.
But then you'll see stuff like the Volkanovski-Holloway fight.
Yeah.
It was a close fight. Don't disagree with that. Um, People, I don't know if I go so far. Well, and it's like, because everyone says, oh, it's a robbery. Well, it's like, well, what do you consider a robbery? But I don't understand how we have a 10-9 must system based on boxing, and somehow you can knock a guy down twice in a 5-round fight. It's like 2 or 3 times, and then you still lose, because in boxing, at least, if you knock someone down, it's a 10-8 round.
Precisely.
But then you only skate by with a 10-9 after nothing else happened significant those rounds. But Holloway not only outpointed him, in the interim, but he also knocked him down. So he was scoring from the outside, he was scoring more and knocked him down. So you would think, okay, well, that must be a 10-8 round, right? 2 10-8 rounds would definitely give him the fight. And then somehow Volkanovski scores. Well, I don't even know if I consider them scoring, but he gets a couple takedowns where Holloway pops right back up, does absolutely no damage, doesn't do anything to change the direction of the fight itself, but that's enough to win him the fight and not the knockdowns. That doesn't really make sense to me.
So because you're a very talented grappler, as a guy who's got a pretty significantly good ground game, do you view the takedown that doesn't actually result in
0
damage
points
or submissions? Okay,
Nothing.
so you're in the 0 points crowd, even though
right. Clearly I'm a grappler, but I'm saying if you get it, if you take a guy down, you have to at least control him and change the direction of the fight. So Volkanovski takes down, this is just an example, Volkanovski takes down Holloway, keeps him down for a couple minutes, gets him top control, even if it's not a ton of damage. Clearly Holloway wanted to be on his feet. Volkanovski wanted to be on the ground. Volkanovski is dictating where the fight's taking place. I think that should count for something. Now, once you get them down, how close did you get to a submission? Did you get a dominant position? Are you beating the guy up? I think all those things should factor in, because the way I look at it is kind of like cage control is what it should fall under. If we're both on the feet and I'm, walking you down, cutting off angles, but I'm not like throwing any punches, how much is that really worth? How many points am I getting for that? If I'm backing you down the whole time, but the guy backing away is still hitting me because I'm the aggressive one. I'm controlling the octagon. It's the same thing with takedowns. Well, you control the octagon, you're being more aggressive in your movement, but if the guy on his back is like elbowing your face off and he's really landing the damage, then who are we really giving the points to?
Exactly. I'm not sure that there are enough people in the athletic commissions right now that really understand that really understand the complexities of the sport. So, they're judging everything in a very black and white kind of rule set, where it's yes or it's no, it's 10 or it's 9. And part of the reason that boxing even has that scoring system is because you've got 12 rounds. If you get a 10-5, you could still come back. In MMA, you get a 10-5, you've lost that fight. There's no coming back from that, in a 3-round fight, especially. So, yeah, I'm still kind of at a loss as to why we're doing it that way. I'm not sure, but at what point are you going to tell, Paul to get in a room with DC and John and Dominic Cruz, and can't they just figure this out?
Well, it comes down to state commissions, and commissions are not gonna change for anybody. They have some power, and they're just, I've seen my coaches after a couple of those decisions talk to the commissioners, and they don't care. They don't want to hear it. Their power is absolute, and there's no oversight on those athletic commissions whatsoever. They're their own governing body. So, unless the UFC flat out refuses to fight in those places, which they've done for some places, they'll like not come back to certain areas for a while because they're like, you guys don't want to play ball. You're, judges or whatever are ridiculous. Then that's it. But, for now it is what it is. And with that, I'm gonna have to cut this interview short. I got to get the rest of my stuff ready and head off to the airport. So I appreciate you
All
having me
right.
on.
Oh, absolutely. I wish you the best of luck. I'm guessing you'd rather win, as would we all.
Yes.
But I think it'll be great. I think this is gonna be an awesome fight for you. So thanks so much for being with me. Good
Hey,
luck.
thanks for having me. I appreciate it.